We want to talk now to Zoha Avigdori, who's had relatives both murdered and kidnapped by Hamas in what happened on the 7th of October. We really appreciate your time, Zoha, this morning. Can you explain to us what has happened to your family members?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My family, my brother's wife, both visited relatives in the south, and they got into the line of fire on the attack on October 7th. They went into the safety room with 7 other family members. Since then, we have learned that 2 family members have died and the caretaker of one of them, and the rest are still held hostage in Gaza right now.
What do you know about your relatives who have been taken hostage?
We know nothing at all. We know that the status is they have been abducted. They moved from a status of missing to a status of abducted, but obviously the resources that the defense system uses in order to trace that remain unknown also to us. We have no idea what their situation is. We have no idea what the conditions they're being held in. And needless to say, we cannot but imagine the worst.
What's your sense then, now that Hamas has released 4 hostages since Friday? Because, I mean, to some degree, it must offer a glimmer of hope that your family members could be next. But, of course, we're also getting the line from the Israeli government and the IDF that this is straight out of the Hamas playbook, that this is just them playing tactics with Israeli lives.
Look, I'm not a strategist and I'm not in government. I'm just a family member who is worried sick and keeps thinking endlessly of the horrific situation that we got thrown into. Clearly, every hostage that is being released brings joy to us as a people, not to mention, of course, to the family, and yes, shows that there is hope. But it has nothing to do with us being worried sick, with us being devastated, and with us continue to pray and to demand that all of the hostages will be released right now.
Zoha, how are you feeling right now in this moment? Because you must be dealing with so many different emotions that are swirling around your mind. You've got the shock of the events of the 7th of October. You've got the grief of your uncle, your auntie and their caregiver, who I believe were killed by Hamas. So sorry about that. And your sister-in-law and your niece are kidnapped by Hamas. But at the same time, you've got the worry and the hope that they will be brought back to you. How are you coping with all of those emotions day to day at the moment?
Well, look, right now we're doing the best that we can to make sure that they're back as soon as possible. So that brings a lot of actions into that, whether it's bringing pressure on different government officials, on foreign governments. We have people with foreign passports who are held in captive as well. We're trying to get interviews, and every now and then you check the news feed and you look at their photos and their videos and you realize that this is really what's going on. And these are the moments when you really break, because this is surreal that we're even living in this type of routine almost. It's been 2.5 weeks almost. And we're in shock. And out of that shock, we're trying to put our lives back together and do whatever we can. But this is all surreal and devastating and grieving to levels that we've never, ever came across before, not as a nation, definitely not as individuals. There's one thing to lose somebody, there's one thing to have somebody that's close to you, have it going through something harsh, but the blow here is so hard, it's so mind-blowing that it's happening also on the national level that it's very, very hard.
I know it's very difficult, because you are obviously in this very intensely personal situation. But everything we're hearing is on a macro level, right? We're getting responses from people who are very angry about what's going on in Gaza. We're getting obviously responses from the IDF and the Israeli government. From someone who's going through what you're going through, what do you make of the response of what is happening now, 2.5 weeks on?
Look, again, I'm not a strategist, not a politician, and right now, going through this personal tragedy, I have two things in mind. One of them is to have my sister-in-law and my 12-year-old niece back and safe, and the other one is the welfare of my brother and my nephew, who have no idea what's going on to half of their family. This is my priority right now. Everything else just vanishes in the background. What we need to do is make sure that these people, all of these people, come back home immediately, right now. These are young people, these are elderly people, there are babies there, there are without their parents, 3-year-old, 9 months old, and we need to just get them back. This is beyond any discussion about retaliation, combat. Right now, that's not where our minds are.
Zoha Avigdori, thank you so much for sharing your story with us here on GB News. We can only imagine how painful that is for you. But thank you so much for sharing that, and really hope that your sister-in-law and your niece come home to you safely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.